Our coin spawner is now able to spawn coins. But we want to add one more line of code to our coin spawner in order for us to get a little bit of information about the coins that we're spawning. So let's go ahead and open that coin spawner script back up by, again, clicking on this script part of the component here. Double clicking there and it opens our script back up. We want to hit the enter key at the end of our transform.position line here. So we're going to add one more line inside of our for loop. And this line is going to be what's called a debug.log. So debug is a built-in Unity class, kind of like input, that allows us to basically figure out where problems are happening and get information about what's happening in our code from inside the Unity editor. So what we can do is a debug.log, which will write whatever we give it inside of its open and close parentheses here. It'll write whatever we put inside this into our console. And our console is this little window here that we haven't really talked about yet, and we're going to go into that in just a second. If you don't see your console tab here, all you have to do is hit Window, go to General, and select Console. And it'll pop up something like this in the middle of your screen. You can click on the little tab here and drag it next to the project tab to dock it. So we're going to use a debug.log to write information about our new coins to the console. So what we can say is in quotation marks, we're going to say coin count, and then our colon, and then a space. And then after the quotation marks, we're going to use a plus sign because we can add things together and make them print all as one object. So we're going to say plus. And then we need another open and close parentheses here. We're going to say I plus 1. And the reason for that is that we want to tell in the console how many coins we've spawned, but I starts at 0, just like our array. But when we spawn the 0 coin, we actually have a coin count of 1. So we can just add 1 to I to tell us how many coins that we've actually spawned. And then after our first set of open and close parentheses, we say plus again, and then we add another set of quotation marks. We put a space at the start to give ourselves a little bit of space between the number here and the next part of our debug. We're going to say coin location, and then another colon and another space. And then outside of that quotation mark, we say plus new coin dot transform dot position, and then outside of that last parentheses we add our semicolon. So debug.log is cool because it can actually take in a lot of different types of values. So these quotation marks are string values. This number value here is going to be an integer, and this new coin.transform.position is vector 3. But our debug.log is unique in that it can handle all these different types of information in just one little parentheses here. So what this is going to do now is that every time our for loop loops, it's going to tell us how many coins we've spawned and the location of the coins that we've spawned. So once we've got this finished, we can save our script again. That's Control or Command S or the little floppy disk. We can go into our game here. If you see any yellow warnings there, we can just hit the clear button to get rid of those. And now if I hit the play button, you'll see we get 5 little text messages in here, and they tell us how many coins. So we had 1, then we had 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 6. And then it tells you the position in world space of each of those coins. So this console is very useful because we can use these debug.logs not only to tell us information about what our code is doing, but they can also be useful for if our code breaks. For example, if I were to do something in this code that would cause an error, let's say I add 4 to our spawn locations. A thing about arrays is that if you try to get a value of something in an array, but it's the index that you're trying to pull information from is greater than the number of objects actually in the array, it's going to cause an error. So what I can do is put a debug both above and below this this coin line. Say debug.log spawn coin. So every time that this loop runs, I should see spawn coin, and then I should see this coin count spit out. But if this line breaks, suddenly we won't see this bottom line, and we'll know that whatever was breaking our code must be between these two debugs. So if I save my script again and go back to Unity and hit play, you'll see that we got two spawn coins. Oh, actually, another thing to point out here is this little collapse thing here, this little collapse option in our console is selected. If I deselect that, now we'll be able to see everything in order. And we can see I do the spawn coin line and then the coin count, spawn coin, coin count, and then spawn coin, but no coin counts. That tells us that our code was breaking somewhere in between these two lines. So that can be very useful if we can't figure out why our code isn't working or maybe where an error is coming from. Another thing that's really cool about the console is when you have an error, errors that we should be concerned about are always going to be these red ones. Yellow ones, for the most part, we can ignore. The red ones, though, are going to break our game, essentially. So if one pops up, a cool thing that you can do is double-click on it. And if it's something that's wrong in your code, it'll actually take you right to the line that's causing the error. So in this case, we know that it's because I added the +4 to our index here in the spawn locations array. So I'm going to undo those couple of changes I made because we don't actually want those in our code. Remove that +4 and that first debug. And now if I go back and click the play button again, now that error is gone and all of our debugs happen properly.